So lately, I've been a little bit more curious about the role of judgment and how judgment not just plays on how we see and perceive our world, but also how it really affects us and our physiology, and specifically our heart center. I have been I feel like most of my life I have been burdened with so much judgment of others, grievances I've held towards others, and judgments I hold on myself, and the role that that has played for me in what seemingly felt like a very safe and secure place to navigate my world with this understanding, this construct of who I was that made me feel confident in myself, in my relationship to the world, and all my relations. But the thing is, what I found with my own healing journey is the more I inhabited the space in my mind with those judgments, I felt worse inside. And honestly, it perpetuated a cycle that made me feel obviously not so good, but just made me look at my world in a way that reflected back to me a place of separation. And once I started to realize that that judgment was really a false sense of security, was a false sense of identifying as me, and I could drop all those thoughts and feelings that I was getting so familiar and habituated with that would maybe give me more prejudices towards the world, or let's say situations that created actually a lot of anxiety and worry and depression. And as I continued to release some of those judgments, and I started to show up with a more curious mind, with a mind that, like most of us have as a child, which is really aware that I don't know. I really don't know what this next moment's going to bring. So instead of trying to interject a judgment onto it, a label, right? Instead, I'm going to stay curious. I'm going to stay open. And even as I say that, hopefully you can feel it. There's a way in which my chest, my heart center is open to the experience of not knowing. And isn't it interesting? I don't know, maybe this isn't the case for you, but for me and a lot of folks I've talked to, it's like what makes life rich and feels so good to be alive is really the surprises, right? The times in our lives when we least expect something and someone comes up and gives us a hug and says, I love you. And it's like, oh, you just melt in that place, right? But what's interesting is when we are in our own world, we're like judgment comes in as a way of trying to understand and navigate to create that false sense of security. And often is the case, it is wrong. Or even in the case, let's say it is right. Like maybe you're in a situation where you're with, let's say, a partner or a friend, and they repeatedly forget to show up on time. That's a very common one. And so we can keep living in the reality that they are that person that's showing up always late. And we can come into whatever situation with them already overlaying that. And of course, to some reality, that is true. Like that has happened in previous circumstances. But when we already paint or color that onto another individual or situation, it's actually not hurting them. It's hurting you, right? That judgment you are carrying is carrying a burden, which you are carrying in your heart and your energetic system. So what occurred to me is like, yes, even though that person may show up late, or even though that person might say something not so nice to me, as hard as it is to relinquish the false security of judgment, I'm here to say that I believe, and from my experience, that the true peace of that situation we want, the true love, the true joy or bliss that it can give us, is best served when we relinquish the judgment and we come back to that curious mind. We come back to, I don't know, maybe they are going to be on time, or maybe they are going to be 10 minutes more late. I don't know. And I know that can be upsetting at times, especially when you need to be somewhere. However, maybe there is a reason that I up here don't know, or someone else that's with you thinks they know, doesn't know either. We don't know. Maybe the reason is because, there was a horrible accident, and if you had showed up at that right time, your friend had showed up at the right time, you would have been in that accident. We just don't know. And as hard as it is to relinquish our control, the mechanism that wants to judge, that wants to label, that wants to have it all figured out, when we can release that, we come back to a pure state that again will help us open this center in our heart. And as we're able to do that, then we will live in better relationship, not only with the world around us, but within ourselves. That's the key, is we will find peace and salvation in there first and foremost. I'm not saying this is easy. It's continually is a daily work for me, but I feel like over the years I have released a lot of some of my own projections and judgment that I have casted onto others. And what it's helped me see is just through a whole new way of understanding that there's so much I don't know, and that's okay. And to literally be led by the unknowing of the experience. The same way, like, I don't know how many of you have gone on a canoe or a kayak or a raft down the river. Like, when it's a new river, you just don't know what's going to be around the next bend. I mean, you could Google it, you could look on the maps and all that, and that can get you prepared, but you still don't know the feeling, the intensity of how that rapid or how that current is going to pull you until you have walked through it. And as much as this guy up here wants to have it all measured and figured out, it robs us of the experience. It robs us of the authentic moment. And it really is in that moment where we receive the most blessings and healing. And I truly, sincerely mean that, especially for those of you that are on the healing journey. Man, this is a big one. if you can start to release your own judgments about you, about your sickness, about the world, about who's attacking you, all those attack thoughts you have, if you can just allow yourself to step back and see all the storm that has created, all the interference it's created, that's not allowing your body to actually do what it knows how to do, which is heal. That's right. Those judgments, those thoughts have tremendous power and weight over how your body will move the direction towards healing or move the direction towards keeping you in that acidic, constricted state. The hope is that as we release that part of our mind, that judgmental part of our mind, we open into a new space, a new creation, a new possibility of who you are that you just don't know, right? Maybe you have some inkling, you have some longing in your heart, of course, to be completely healed. And at the same time, just like going around that river bend, you just don't know until you've walked through it. And I think that releasing the judgment is one of the most profound ways to heal and to open your heart and to listen to the guidance and to experience yourself as an incredible divine creation that you are to the fullest. So that's my blessing, and that's my feeling about what judgment can do to us. And I appreciate you listening. I'd love to hear your thoughts down below, what you think about judgment and its role and how it can be an interfering block in our healing. Tell me about yours. And also subscribe, hit that like button, and I'd love to see you more in the comments below. Lots of love, everyone.